There came a point when my gambling problem was no longer something that stayed inside the casino. I carried it home with me. The losses came home, the lies came home, the stress came home, and the shame came home too. And sometimes I think the shame can keep you trapped almost as much as the addiction itself. Because when you're ashamed of what you're doing, you don't want anybody to know. Hello everyone, this is Dimples D and welcome back to the Healing Corner with Dimple D. Healing, hope, and growth. In part 1, I told you about gambling started with just $20. In part 2, I talked about how I went from chasing a win to chasing my losses. But today, I want to talk about what happened when gambling started affecting the rest of your life. My life. Because addiction does not just affect your money. It affects your relationships, your decisions, your sleep, your peace, your confidence, and the way you see yourself. For me, one of the hardest part was the hiding. When you're gambling and you're losing your money, you don't want nobody to know you're losing. You don't always tell people the whole story. You might tell somebody about the time you won, but you don't tell them how much you lose before you won it. You don't tell them how much you gave back afterward. You don't tell them how much times you went to the ATM. You don't tell them how many long hours you stayed at the casino. And you definitely don't always tell them about the money that was supposed to go somewhere else. You learn how to smile. You learn how to function. You learn how to make it look like everything is okay. Meanwhile, you're falling apart in the inside. And I understand that shame because I lived it. There were things I didn't want people to know. There were decisions I wasn't proud of. And sometimes you start asking yourself, how did I get here? Because remember, I didn't start with thousands of dollars. I started with $20. That's why today I try to be very careful about judging someone else's addiction. Because addiction doesn't discriminate. You could be rich, you could be poor, you could be the CEO of the company, you could be the person cleaning the company, you could be educated, you could have a beautiful family, you could look like you have everything together and still be struggling with something nobody knows about. And gambling is not only somebody sitting inside a casino pulling a slot machine. Today, gambling can be right there on your phone. Sports betting, online casino, lottery, and even certain kinds of high speculated stock or option trading can become gambling behavior when you consistently chase the next quick win instead of investing with a plan. The location may change. The game may change. But that feeling of chasing the next win can be the same. And that's something I had to understand about myself. Eventually, I realized this wasn't only about money. Because if it were only about money, winning would have made me stop. But sometimes winning made me want to gamble even more. I was trying to feel something, escape something, feel something. And that is where healing had to become about more than simply saying, I'm not going to the casino anymore. I had to start looking at why I wanted to go in the first place. And that is also why I want to tell anybody struggling with an addiction, please don't let shame stop you from asking for help. You may need therapy. You may need a support group. You may need somebody you trust to hold you accountable. You may need to change some of the people and places around you. And for me, I also had to continue asking God, give me the strength to keep going. Because healing doesn't always mean you never struggle again. Sometimes healing means you recognize the struggle sooner. You ask for help sooner. And when you fall, get back up. Let me say that again. When you fall, get back up. Don't use one bad decision as permission to give up on yourself completely. You fell. Okay. What are you going to do next? Get back up. Ask for help. Pray. Talk to somebody you trust. Start again. Because I know what it feels like to look at your life and think, I should be further than this. I know what it feels like to regret what you have lost. I know what it feels like to be ashamed. But I also know that as long as you still here, your story doesn't have to end where you fell. And that's one of the reasons I'm sharing mine. Not because I have anything figured out. Not because I'm here to condemn anybody. But because somebody may be watching quietly, struggling quietly, and ashamed to tell anybody what is happening. I want you to know you're not the only person who has struggled, and there is strength in finally saying, I need help. My gambling story has cost me a lot. Money, peace, relationship, time, and things I wish I could go back and change. But I cannot change yesterday. What I can do is use what I lived through to help somebody today. And if you're sharing the parts of my story, and if sharing the parts of my story that I am ashamed of help somebody else step out of hiding, then there's purpose even in the pain. And after these 3 parts, I have something special I want to share with you. I recently came across an old practice podcast I recorded with Dario, my friend. And listening back to that conversation, I realized how openly we talked about my gambling, the wins, the losses, the relapse, the hiding, and even the time when I won over $100,000 and gave it all back. I'm going to share that conversation with you next, because sometimes hearing the raw conversation tells the story in a complete different way. Until next time, remember, addiction does not discriminate. Shame does not have to keep you silent. And if you fall, get back up. Keep healing, keep hoping, keep growing, one chapter at a time. One love. Dimples D.